Hi, Zizaran here with another video, and I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about Spectres on like the both the Necro and the Inquisitor Detonate Dead builds, how we use them and why we use them, and how much of a difference they really make, and especially like why I'm doing so little damage in the fights like the Shaper and also Elder and Awakener, and why I do so much damage in the Cortex. So like if you see here in the Cortex fight. I'm basically like insta detonating the boss. Whereas if you see here during the Shaper, I am like Resident Sleeper, I'm doing no damage. So why is that? How does it work? Why is my build sometimes ZDPS and sometimes Giga DPS? Here on my Detonate Dead character, you can see I have a Crush Claw and a Blister Lord. Now, if I Desecrate, they are being spawned because they're with me. They're with me. So I'm spawning some random trash. Desecrated Bone Stalker, and one other monster? Maybe that's the only thing. That's always there. But then now I have Blister Lords and Crush Claws. And you can see like they're detonating nicely. They're very, very high health monsters. Now for how Detonate Dead scales, it's not a spell, right? That's the important part. Like even though it says spell, the spell is actually only the initial part. Detonate Dead has two parts. It has the initial spell part, which gets affected by spell crit multi, etc. But the thing that we really care about this is generic. Think of it similar to like the explosion chest and stuff like that, and it's harder to get that to crit. It's also harder to scale. This means that we need like global crit multi, we need global crit chance, and that's what makes Inquisitor really good for it, because this is global crit chance, the Righteous Providence. Now, this Crush Claw is around the same as having, I think it was either 3 or 5,000. Yeah, I think it's 5,000 fire damage to spells from the Crush Claw, and the Blister Lord was something like 3,500. Now, fire damage to spells doesn't actually help the build. Like if I had fire damage to spells here, which I do, it doesn't really help the build much. That's only going on the initial hit, but we mostly care about the explosion. You know, that still gives you an idea of how much damage these things are. Because the Crush Claw has like 1,200% life, and the Blister Lord is 960. Now, these are the highest HP Spectres that exist. Like, these are the best ones we can use. The way this works then is, if we're doing any of the synthesis maps, any of them at all, the Cortex, the Twisted, whatever, what we actually do is this. We get rid of the Blister Lord, and we summon only a Crush Claw, and we go in. Why is that? Why don't we use 2? Why aren't we using the Blister Lord anymore? Well, that's because the way Desecrate works is it, let's say I've just entered a Cortex, right? And I Desecrate, I would be summoning nothing. But if I have, or just like those trash corpses. But if I have the Crab with me, it's binary. It's either it has existed in the instance at some point, or it hasn't. And I don't have any Spectres now, but you can see that I'm still summoning both the Blister Lord and the Crush Claw. So it's just, they have to have existed in the instance at some point. The best way to think about it is something like this. So in the Cortex, if we have like no monster and we have a Crab in, we're only desecrating the Crab and whatever the shit thing Desecrate normally desecrates. And then if we had a Blister Lord, then it's like that, right? So now we've like diluted our own pool with a worse monster, right? Because this is 960 and this is 1200. Now normally there's like shit mob. Normally there's loads of shit monsters in the instance, right? And then these are like 110, 50, etc. Like they're garbage monsters, right? So then you want as many Spectres as possible, and this is where Spectre Banks and stuff like that come in, because whenever there's a area with a lot of monsters, and especially if they're weak ones, say for example the Shaper Arena, there are loads of monsters with barely any HP, and detonating them does like no damage. So then we want to dilute the pool as much as possible. So bringing in more Spectres becomes really useful then. Whereas the Cortex ones, there is nothing to dilute, then we only want to use our best one. And I know this is a little bit complicated. I'm trying to explain it as clearly as I can. This makes that, you know, whenever I'm doing a very, very hard fight, I will use portals to bring in multiple Spectres. I've even got an amulet here with Death Attunement just to bring in 3 Spectres at a time, so I can bring in 6 really, really nice Spectres. So what do we do then is we got to make sure we have a map open, and now we're going to use Spectre Banks, which I have a video explaining, and I might explain it again here. But now I relog, And first, this one has my my Harvest Spectres. This one has my Bear Spectres. So this has one heist monster and one bear. Now I've like logged on that character that's been in the hideout, and now I'm gonna log on the two heist ones. There. So now all of these have been in the instance, right? And the map is still there, keeping my instance open. It resets after like 8 or 15 minutes of nobody being in the hideout. But now when I go back on this character and I desecrate, you'll see that now there's a bunch of monsters here. There's Rusty Crushers, there's Wild Bristled Matron, there's the Blister Lord and the Crush Claw, and the other one there, Malicious Bruiser and Auto Enforcer. So that's like the 6 I have. And these are all 750% HP plus. And the reason we bring so many in is, for example, in the Maven fight, there's not that many, like very, very high. There's not that many monsters at all. Maybe there's like 6 monsters in there. So maybe it's like this. And we now dilute this pool with like the 750, the 760, the 805 or whatever. So now, whenever we're spawning these monsters, we're dealing a large amount of damage. If you watch my Maven fight, you'll see that Maven's dying very, very quickly. But the problem with the Shaper fight is that it looks more like this. So you're barely ever spawning your high health monsters. So I just wanted to explain a little bit why you might feel like you're ZDPS against like Awakener and Shaper, and why you feel like an absolute god against the Cortex. So this can be like pretty worth. So when doing like Uber Elder, I did Uber Elder last night, and it was very, very smooth. I would bring in these 3, and then I would go back out, and I would bring in the 3 heist, heist Spectres. And once I'm ready for the fight to start, I unsummon them because they don't need to be alive. It's actually kind of like frustrating sometimes because people would be like, "Sis, your Spectres died." I'm like, no, I don't want them to be targeted by the boss. Because if you're doing Uber Elder and the Shaper targets your Spectres and you run into the balls, well, you die, and that sucks. As for getting them, the Bristle Matron is one of the purple seeds from Harvest. These 2 are both from Harvest, and the other 3 are in Heist. Rusty Crusher and Auto Enforcer is in Tunnels, and you have to have like activated the alarm. And the Malicious Bruiser is in the Smuggler's Den, or Smuggler something. So I have 3 Spectre Banks for that. It's a little overkill. You don't really need that much more than these 2. But like on hardcore, when you're going to go up against hard bosses, you take as much as you can get. And then for summoning the Harvest ones, I normally get them very low with Detonate Dead, and then I'll just Flame Dash through them. I will get them to like 5% HP and then Flame Dash through them. Because if I kill them with DD, I'm very likely to kill the corpse I'm trying to res. And you can't desecrate it after it's dead. You can't desecrate it while it's alive. You have to kill it. And the dude that you killed, you have to instantly rest it. Boop, rest it. Got him. Got him. So it's a bit of a pain to get, but it is worth it. If you are on a trade league, like Softcore Ritual or Hardcore Ritual, you can go to Global 6666, and people are generally pretty helpful and will help you get Spectres. And hanging around and helping other people get Spectres is really nice too. So how do we make a Spectre Bank? First, I just click on create a character, I do the league that I'm on, and now I click the Scion, I click on PvP only, I click on fresh level 28, and I am a Spectre Bank lol. Now, usually I will go and buy a chest piece with a green socket and a blue socket. I will buy a Desecrate gem, and I will buy a Raise Spectres. Then I just path up here. And now I'm able to summon 2 Spectres in this, and I have a Spectre Bank. Now all I need to do, and like this instance still has all those Spectres if I wanted to store one of the Spectres on them. So that's how that works. And yeah, I hope it helps. I hope it makes like more sense and better explained than previous videos I made. And I wish you guys the best of luck with boss killing. And yeah, obviously like Cortex and stuff, super easy with this build. Hope you guys are enjoying the videos and Ritual. Sub if you like the videos. And I hope you guys are having an amazing time. I know I am. But more importantly, try to die less than I do.